the job.
Well, we're
No,
mistake makers.
Yeah, mistake makers.
And I struggle with the M there. One, they're models. They model what it means to follow the Lord. But I wanted people to understand they're not perfect. So we make mistakes.
Let's talk about that a little bit there, actually, because that's mistake makers. It ties back to what we just said a minute ago about church in general. Owning your mistakes, being real about yourself.
Yep.
That's something probably that's very new to me with the kids. I'm just trying to be much more myself with the kids.
Right.
I said something like this on the show one time that I started to realize everybody else around me knew how I felt about them except them, and that I should change that. But I've never been afraid to maybe own my mistakes with the kids.
Right.
But I have been trying to be a little bit more open with them in other ways and just being more direct with them and stuff.
Right.
But I think there is a lot to be said for showing your kids your imperfections and not because that takes a lot of pressure off of them to feel like they have to be perfect. And it doesn't mean that you want them to go make mistakes. We're not encouraging you to make mistakes, but you said that let them make the mistakes. That was part of your of what you said in being able to let them.
Yeah, part of that is letting them learn to grow up. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there are times when, all right, they're going to make a stupid decision. Mm-hmm. All right. In fact, I know my kids well enough that I bet I know your kids well enough. They might have forgotten to do the homework, or they might have forgotten. And I tell you, there were times when Nicole would call me, "Dad, I left my homework on the table, and your office is right across the street from the house because the church was right across the street from the house. Could you bring it to me?" Mm-hmm. Well, wait a minute. That's 40 minutes of my day that I've got to do just because you didn't do your responsibility.
Yeah.
And so, parenting 101, when's the right time to say, "I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah.
You made that mistake. That's not my fault." Or, "Okay, I'll get you this time. Next time, no." And so having, but what I've learned is they don't forget it much next time.
Yeah.
If there's mistakes and consequences, next time you'll remember your homework, right? And I think it's that's what I was getting at is letting your children, part of that growing up is realizing your actions carry consequences and your decisions are going to have, and so protecting them from any ill will or any harm, you want to protect them from harm that's going to hurt them, but protecting them from every little hard situation in life, man, you're building a bunch of soft people.
Yeah.
There's
a line there, obviously, that even goes probably beyond a faith conversation with parenting. That's something that you always have to wrestle that line.
Right.
But I think to me, lately especially, in a way it goes back, I guess, to humility too. It's understanding that, yes, they're your responsibility, but at the end of the day, your abilities, even when it comes to your parenting, are still restricted to your own human condition.
Yeah, you're limited.
And there are going to be some things that you're going to have to just rely on. Please God help this. Please God help that. There's going to be a lot that that's where, and I think that kind of gets back to that dependence and surrender a little bit more too.
And that's where your faith comes in. That's where your total dependence, because hey, I can't change every situation.
Yeah,